Hello and welcome to the first episode of ProAm Predictions, brought to you by the MMA Opinion. I am the amateur side, Paul O'D, and on the pro side we have Bellator bantamweight contender Brian the Pikeman Moore. How are you doing, Brian?
All good, Paul. Glad to finally be doing this.
Yeah, exciting times. We've got new content coming on the MMA Opinion and we're delighted to have you on board.
Cool, man. I'm looking forward to it. We've talked about it for long enough, so we're finally here.
Exactly. So this is a bit different. Normally we would be predicting on upcoming fights, but seeming as there's no fights this week, we are going to predict our champions at the end of 2021. And I believe you have some picks in mind, or you said you might change a few mid-course.
Yeah, each division, well, most of them are stacked. So there's the contenders, then you have each matchup is very different, as in styles make fights. So it's very hard to predict who's going to be the kingpin at the end of it, but we'll give it a go.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's a bit of fun anyway. I think it'd be impossible to predict a lot of them, and I do think this will be a year that there will be a lot of champions change around in both Bellator and UFC. I think we're going to cover both promotions.
Well, what I really think is out of the 8 men's divisions, I think we're going to see 6 new champions. So that will just go to show how stacked each division is. You know, if you look back at the champs from 2 and 3 years ago, not much of them are there anymore. You know what I mean? It's just ever changing. So I don't think this year is going to be any different.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think I have 5 changes, but yeah, I think it'll be very similar like that. There'll be a lot of new champions, especially in the men's divisions. So I suppose without further ado, we'll get into it. Do you want to start at the flyweights?
Yeah, let's do it.
So flyweight Bellator, there is no champion at the moment and there's technically no division, but I think we're both on the same page here. There's a lot of potential flyweight contenders that are signed with Bellator now, and I do see there being a division by the end of this year. Do you have a pick on who you think would be champion?
I think Pettis, because he'll be given the shot immediately. They like Pettis, and I think he'll just get an automatic shot, and he is a fantastic flyweight.
Yeah.
He's a good bantamweight, an excellent flyweight, so I could see him being champ if they put a promotion in place.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. My pick also is Pettis for the flyweight division. I do think that Blaine O'Driscoll would have a good chance if he's given the opportunity this year. If not, I think 2022 could be his year that he gets the opportunity. But it'd be interesting to see who they match Pettis up against at flyweight.
That's the only reason I didn't pick Blaine. Blaine is excellent. I don't know, I'm obviously going to be biased, but he's actually very underrated for a guy who's on a win streak, a very big win streak. But I just can't see him being given the shot immediately. Sergio's a big name. They're going to give him that shot immediately. But I think the year after will be Blaine's year.
Yeah. And as far as the UFC, I suppose we'll stick to the flyweights for now. For the UFC, who do you have dominating that division in 2021?
I don't see any change. I think Figueiredo. I cannot pronounce that man's name, but I think
that's the best I've heard you pronounce it anyway.
No, let's go with Figueiredo. I think he'll be top of the pile, but that's a really interesting division because that's went from a division no one cared about to now an excellent division with excellent fights. Plus, I can really see Cody Garbrandt going down and having a good battle with him if he drops a weight class, and I can definitely see Henry Cejudo making a comeback too. So, I mean, there's great matchups in the flyweight division. But I still think Figueiredo will be champ.
Yeah, I agree. We will have some differences throughout, but I do agree on this one.
I'm
copying. Yeah. We'll get into it in a while. Don't worry. No. On our podcast that we had there during the week, Liam O'Griffin touched on Davison Figueiredo, that he's probably the most feared champion in any division right now when it comes to the men's MMA. There are a couple of contenders there. You have Brandon Moreno, who fought him to a draw. I do think we'll see a rematch of that fight. But you have Askar Askarov as well, who's a very high up contender, who I think would be next after Moreno. He'll push him close. It could be a very similar fight to the Moreno fight. But yeah, I do agree. I think it'll be Davison at the end of the year.
I think Moreno should get an immediate rematch after such a war, but I can see Garbrandt being given an immediate title shot as well. That was the original fight, so I can see it's a big draw as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. We'll move on to the bantamweights. I suppose I'll go first on this one in Bellator, your own division.
Choose wisely.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's already talks of One Archuleta going over to the Tokyo Dome and fighting Haraguchi for the both belts, like they did a couple of years ago, and Haraguchi won against. I'm gonna point to your knowledge here. Who did Haraguchi beat in Bellator previous?
Darian Caldwell.
Darian Caldwell, that's it exactly. But yeah, so I do see that happening in the Tokyo Dome, and I don't see it happening until middle of the year. It'll be the summertime roughly. Now, in that time, I think there'll be a few contender fights happening. But if Haraguchi wins, which I expect him to win, I would imagine there will be a rematch for One Archuleta somewhere in the States after that. That's the reason I'm going to stick with Haraguchi. But I do think there's a few contenders like yourself that are pretty close, and I think it could be 2022 by the time the shots come back around after this back and forth.
Yeah, that's the fear with the whole cross promotion is, rematches and then the division being laid up that a little bit. But it is interesting, Haraguchi, yeah, he's awesome. He looked excellent in his last fight too. But I would actually pick Archuleta to beat Haraguchi. I think he's just more athletic. I think I wouldn't say he's better. He's more well-rounded, but he just has a different dynamic. And I think that he would. I think that he'd do the job against Haraguchi. But yeah, that's a great fight. So
you're not giving yourself. So you're not giving yourself the nod, no?
Do you know what? If we weren't in the smack bang middle of COVID, I would. But who the fuck knows how many fights we're going to get in? Realistically, I think I need 2 fights to get a shot, or 1 big fight to get a shot. And I'm working on that 1 big fight at the minute. Hopefully, we'll be able to sign off on something soon. But right now with the whole COVID thing, I just think Archuleta he'll get 1 or 2 fights in this year, and I think he's excellent. I think he'll give any 135er in the world a good run for his money. But if you come back, I think I'll give him the best fight in Bellator, 100%.
Very good. I suppose moving on to the UFC, we'll stick with the bantamweights again. I'll give my pick, and this I'd sent you on my picks for preview earlier, and I wrote Aljo, and you gave me some shit over that.
Yeah, I thought you meant Aldo, and I was like, get the fuck. Then you're kind of assuming you're trying to portray that you and Aljamain Sterling are best buddies, so you call him Aljo.
Only his friends get to call him Aljo. That's just a fact.
Exactly. Who are you picking? Who are you picking for bantamweight in the UFC?
Yeah, so it is Aljamain Sterling. That's the next fight up, and I think Aljamain just has a little bit too much for Jan. I do think there are some good contenders there. I think Rob Font is a kind of a sleeper in that division, and I think if Cody Garbrandt sticks about, but the talk of him going down to 125, which I don't like for him, but I think if Garbrandt sticks about, he's a nightmare for anyone in that top 5. But I would give Aljamain the nod over Jan.
I'm different here with you in regarding Garbrandt. I think Garbrandt gets swallowed up now that the division is so much better. I think he will be forced to move down to flyweight anyway. Yeah. The contenders there are phenomenal. You see, you've got Peter Yan, who looks incredible. You've got Aljamain Sterling, which is going to be a great matchup. And then you've got TJ Dillashaw to come back as well. You have Munoz as well in the division. It's absolutely stacked. Styles make fights, so to predict who's going to be champ is next to impossible in this one. I can't see past Yan, but if Dillashaw comes back on form and maybe he's rejuvenated after the break, I can see him causing the upset and getting the title back.
Interesting one. I just have a passionate hatred towards TJ Dillashaw after all his popping for steroids and all this kind of carry on. So I just can't see him getting back up in that mix. But I will be proven wrong. He is going to come back and he'll fight someone top level and he'll be right back in there before we know it.
Apparently it's going to be him and Aldo next. That's what I've heard and what I've seen. And I think he destroys Aldo.
Yeah.
But it's just such a passing of the guard almost with that bantamweight division, because you look at Cruz, look at Aldo, look at Garbrandt. These were they still are high level guys, but I don't think any of the 3 of them get close to a title or a title shot. I think the talent is just far better right now.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll move on to the featherweights. In Bellator, we have probably the culmination of the featherweight Grand Prix this year. So left in that, you have Pitbull and Sanchez in the semi-final, and you have AJ, who was already in the final. My pick for that is that I see Pitbull going through to the final, and I see AJ McKee lifting the belt at the end of this and $1 million.
Yeah, it's a very tough one. AJ's a great fighter. I was in there with him myself, excellent fighter. But Jesus, Sanchez looked incredible in his last fight.
Best I've seen him, yeah.
By a mile. He made Daniel Vaichu look less than ordinary, which is a very hard task. And then you've got Pitbull, who he's outstanding. Whatever anyone wants to say about him, I know my camp have had bad words with his camp, and I personally back and forth with him. But I can't take off my hat to him. He's an excellent fighter, and he looks better every time as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He looks better now than he did 2 years ago. So those three guys could do excellent. I'm gonna go. I had AJ originally, but I'm gonna go with Pitbull just based on the experience, based on that. I think he'll know how to beat these guys. He's beat Sanchez before, and I think he'll use his experience against AJ. So I'll go with Pitbull.
And an interesting one here before we move to the UFC. I know Pitbull during the lockdown was very vocal about wanting to take on some of the UFC contenders, and now it appears that AJ McKee is also kind of on that train as well, where he's talking about taking on some of the top contenders in the UFC, and that he's 2 fights left in his contract. Now, if he's holding the belt, obviously there'd be a stipulation that he has to stay with Bellator. But either or, whichever winner, who would you see them match up best with, and who do you think would be champion at the end of 2021 in UFC, and how do you see them matching up against Pitbull would be your pick?
Okay, so my prediction for champ at the end of the year in featherweight for the UFC, I've been juggling all these around in my head all day. I had Cater picked last night. I've Ortega, but I think Ortega beats Cater. I think he loses against Holloway. You've then Volkanovski there, who's been very sturdy. But I'm going to go with Ortega. He gets the next title shot. I think he'll have a defense as well. And then who does he match up well against, either AJ or Pitbull? Jesus, that's so. I don't know. You're confusing the shit out of me. Yeah. Look, I think Pitbull is probably the most experienced featherweight there is right now out of all the top contenders in the world. Yeah. So, I would favor him over most. Let's put it that way.
Well, my pick is Ortega as well, and I think you stole that off me this time. But yes, I have Ortega to win. I have him. So the next matchup I see happening is Volkanovski and Ortega, and then it'll be the winner of that will take on the winner of Holloway Cater. I see Holloway coming through Cater. I just think you're on about experience. I think Holloway just has a little bit too much, and I think Ortega gets it done in the second time around against Ortega. I think we saw a very diminished version of Ortega in the first fight. As far as a cross promotion, I think AJ matches up very well with either Holloway or Ortega. I think he's a phenomenally tough match for either of those in particular.
To be honest, I think both. I'm going to include Sanchez in this as well, because I think it's really unfair that we don't mention him. I think the 3 guys left in the Grand Prix, Bellator Grand Prix right now, would beat Volkanovski. But I can't. It's really hard to predict when you put him against Cater, who's primarily a striker, then Ortega, who's primarily a grappler, how they would match up with different guys. That's why I like Pitbull's chances if he was to cross promote, because he's excellent grappling, excellent striking, but he just has so much experience. Yeah. That being said, you look at AJ and he's knocked guys out, he's choked guys out. It's they can do it all, but that's what we're expecting at the high level of the highest level of the 2 best promotions in the world. So, and
I suppose secretly off topic here, is that a fight that you're looking to get back, that AJ fight?
Oh, of course,
somewhere
absolutely.
Down the road.
Somewhere down the road. I genuinely think my where I want to be is at bantamweight, and I think that the fight that I'm pursuing at the minute, I think that will leapfrog me right into contention. I want to get that Bellator belt. And then we could talk about maybe going against AJ at 145. I'd love that too. You know what I mean? Look, if they ask me to fight him in 2 weeks at 145, I'm there. But I want to stick with the goal right now, the plan.
Do you want to break any news on who you're looking to fight next?
All you have to do is look at my Twitter. I'd love to fight Brett Johns next. And
that'd be a good fight.
He's a great fight. He's a great guy. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about him, but Jesus, that would be a hell of a fight. That would be a fucking crazy fight.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've asked Bellator for it, so let's see what
the Pike man versus the Pikey.
Yeah.
There's a good ring to it. We'll get back into some picks. We'll go with Bellator lightweight, and I have a bit of a strange one here. I have Said Nurmagomedov. And the reason I picked him is because I reckon I checked the Bellator page there recently, and it says there's no lightweight champion currently. Now, there was talks of Pitbull giving up the belt to let his brother fight for the title, which Scott Coker said he wasn't against. Now, I just don't think Patricky matches up well against any of the top 2 or 3 guys there. You've Brent Primus, you've a few more. But I think an outside shot just for name value, they could give it to Nurmagomedov against Patricky. And I think Nurmagomedov would have too much for him.
Yeah, possibly. Look, if Pitbull is to vacate his belt, why not vacate it to let the matchup of his older brother Patricky and Queally fight for it? That's a fight that everyone would like to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a really entertaining fight. Like, as soon as Peter told me that those were fighting, I was like, fuck yeah, because I knew that was going to be a hell of a fight. So I'm just looking forward to when that happens, and when I put it on for a belt, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, if I had to pick elsewhere, what I could see Bellator doing is giving Brett Primus his shot again, because you know, he had the Gogo Plata win. He's beat Chandler. He's been a former champion. So I could see that rematch, or that Brett Primus been put in the mix, but against who, I'm not sure. Maybe your pick as well. Maybe that would be a good matchup. But unlike some of the divisions, there's no real clear cut, you know, champ that I can leap to. So I'm going to say Brett Primus for lightweight.
Very good. And in the UFC lightweight division, I don't think there's going to be any surprises here.
Who did I pick? I picked
a little close to home. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see Conor coming back, and like he getting at least 2 to 3 fights in, and he just looks on form. He just seems on form. He's in a great spot, it looks like. Fortunately, I didn't get to help him in his camp. I was meant to, but I had to go for a little bit of a knee surgery a couple of weeks back. So, but by all accounts, he's flying it, and I think he'll knock out Poirier. I think it'll be, like he said, a masterclass. I think he'll go on to defend that belt, contend for a belt, and then defend it as well.
Yeah, I do believe still that the McGregor-Poirier fight will be for the title. I think that. Like, I know it's not much to go by, but BJPen.com did release that they had seen some messages from UFC staff that it was under wraps at the moment, but it would be for the title unless Dana can convince Khabib to come back this year, which he has to do within a week before, or 2 weeks before the title, when he meets him in Fight Island, which I don't see happening. So I believe that's for the title. I think McGregor, I'd say it's a much tougher fight this time, but I think he still does go through Poirier. And after that, you've Gaethje against Oliveira and Chandler against Hooker. And I don't see where any of those 4 guys have anything special for McGregor at lightweight. I really don't. I suppose Oliveira, for me, would be his toughest test, just based on style. But again, I would see Gaethje being too tough for Oliveira, so I don't think he would get there. But yes, I would also pick McGregor for lightweight champ.
Yeah, well, look, I think you're only as good as your last fight, so I think Oliveira will actually beat Gaethje. That's who I'd pick.
Yeah.
I think that is probably, from you look at the last performances, his stiffest test. When Conor gets that belt, in my opinion. But I don't see anyone that has anything for him. In my opinion, he's fighting the toughest test right now. It was Poirier. Yeah. I think once he beats Poirier, I think he has an easier night in the office against the other contenders, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I have him. I think he'll want to be active this year.
Yeah.
And he's getting in January, so I can see him fighting another 2 times after January as well this year. So I'd love to see him active, love to see him take that belt again, and just see him in flying form. That we all love to see those beautiful knockouts. Like, he's just the highlight reel knockouts they produces.
Yep. I'm going to quickly move on to the Bellator welterweight division, and I'm going to go first on this one. Again, I have a bit of a strange pick. I have Michael Venom Page. I suppose it's not that strange, but I can see him getting the rematch against Lima and coming through it this time.
Yeah. I have Lima because I just think the guy obviously when he went up to middleweight, it didn't work out as well, but at welterweight looks phenomenal. But MVP, he's a young guy that looked real good against Lima until that leg kick to that knockout shot. So I'm not surprised. Like, when I was juggling of who was gonna come up trumps in that division, MVP was right up there. It was a tough pick between them, but there's a lot of good guys at welterweight. Jackson has been very impressive in the last few fights as well. There's a lot of good welterweights there, but yeah, I've Lima.
Yeah, and welterweight in the UFC, I have Mr. Hamza Chimaev, my favorite fighter of 2020.
Yeah, look at the guy is great, but it's good. But I can't wait to see his next test. I'm just sick in that the Edwards fight isn't happening right now. It's not a crazy pick. It's a bit crazy because he's barely put his foot in the door of the UFC, but the impact that he's had speaks volumes. But I think Usman will. I don't think Usman will fight much this year. He's just one of those guys that he carries a lot of injuries. He gets in once, twice a year. So although the division is full of killers, they mightn't have the opportunity to dethrone him. So I'm picking Usman. I think that he will beat Burns. I think that'll be a tough fight. It is a tough fight. I think he'll beat Burns, and I think he'll defend it one more time. I think he could fight the winner of Jesus, what are the two? What's that guy? What's his fucking name?
Covington.
Yes, and Three Jesus. I think they're going to fight, and he'll be the winner of those two guys. So
and there will be two rematches. Yeah, I agree with you, but I think after the Burns fight, which is happening early in the year by all accounts, I would say that if Hamzat gets a fight in the meantime and looks impressive again, I do think he'll be next up, just based on the hype machine that's around him.
See, that's why I was going to ask you. So Khamzat is probably going to fight maybe February, March, I'd imagine. You know what I mean? He's going to be in early. He's ready to fight. So he has one fight. Do you think he needs another to get a title shot, or do you think he'll get an immediate title shot after his next win?
I think if he goes in against anyone in the top 10 and does to them what he's done to the previous three opponents, I think he's next up after Burns.
See, I think he needs another two. And I think it's not that he needs. I think the UFC will want him to fight another two to make sure he's 100% right.
The UFC want him to be champion. In my opinion, I just think the promotion that they've given him, I can see them pushing him right up to the very top.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
We'll
move on. We'll move on to the middleweights. We're under a bit of time pressure here. So middleweights and Bellator, who do you have?
Mousasi. Yeah, Mousasi.
Yeah, I'm the same. I can see. I hope John Salter gets a shot because he's very much earned it. He's earned it twice over, in my opinion. But I can see Gegard just being a little bit too much for John Salter.
Yeah, John Salter, he's fantastic. But the champ who's forced to retire, I hope he gets the green light to come back and because he looks fantastic. I know he's not a young guy, but he had a massive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu career, and he beat Mousasi the first time around. So that would be fantastic to see him back in the mix if he gets the all clear again. But I'm going to pick Mousasi. I think he looks ever as impressive.
Yeah, same. And in the UFC, who do you have at middleweight?
Middleweight, I have Whittaker. I have Whittaker taking the crown back. And whether that is that he beats Adesanya, or whether that if Adesanya goes to light heavyweight and gives up the middleweight crown, I don't know. But I'm going to go with Whittaker just based on, I think he's a great guy in the sense of his fight style. I'm a big fan of his, so I'm kind of rooting for him. That's more of I'm rooting for him prediction.
Yeah.
Adesanya, it's phenomenal. It'll be very, very hard to beat him, but I can see him going up to light heavyweight and staying there. So maybe that'll give a little bit of room to open up, a chance for Whittaker to get his crown back.
I do believe if Whittaker holds a belt by the end of 2021, it will be an interim title. That's I could see him holding an interim title, but I don't think they're going to strip Adesanya, and I don't see him beating Adesanya. I have Adesanya picked as the middleweight champion at the end of the year, and I'm gonna tie that in with the UFC light heavyweight division, because I see Adesanya being the light heavyweight champion at the end of the year also. I see him beating Jan Blachowicz, and I think if the matchup is made at light heavyweight, which I foresee it, Adesanya against Jones, I think Adesanya beats Jones at 205.
Oh, really?
Bold, I know.
No, I can't see that. I am a huge Adesanya fan, and I'm agreeing that he'll be the light heavyweight champ. If they allow him to be middleweight and light heavyweight, I think that he could do both for sure. That'd be a pick as well that I could see. But I can't see him beating John Jones just on the sheer physicality of Jones. He's a much bigger guy.
Yeah.
And I think he'll use that size and his grappling advantage. Adesanya is the best striker in MMA, period, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The most
decorated.
Most well-versed.
Yeah.
Most decorated, yeah, perhaps, but it's shown us in the octagon what he can do.
Yeah.
Now Conor has in my opinion, that he's right up there. Then you get Anderson Silva. So you've got these guys, but Adesanya, he's hugely decorated. So but when it comes to the grappling and the physicality of Jones, I can't see him beating him. But I think Jones will go up to heavyweight.
Yeah. With regards to the light heavyweight division in Bellator, who do you have?
Light heavyweight in Bellator, I have Anderson coming in, but I like Nemkov, so I think it'll be either of those guys. But I'm going to go with Anderson. Corey Anderson, new signing, coming over from the UFC.
Yeah, my pick here is going to be Nemkov, purely because I can actually see them making a Grand Prix and it not starting until middle of the year, based on everyone being around. Now, they're mostly American fighters. I think they're all actually based in America, the people they have lined up for this. So they have Corey Anderson, Rumble, Anthony Johnson. They have Yoel Romero, Ryan Bader, Davis, Mousasi, and Machida are the speculated 8, including Nemkov, for the Grand Prix. And I don't see them putting in Nemkov against a Rumble or Yoel in the first round. And I think they're the two that would give him the biggest worries, I'm including Anderson in that. And I just see coming the end of the year, we'll be going into the semi-finals of a Grand Prix, but I don't think Nemkov will have fought. I think he might fight January in a semi-finals of 2022.
Yeah, it's a good point. To be honest, if they're going to do a Grand Prix, they should do a bantamweight Grand Prix, but the light heavy one would make sense because it's a shorter bracket with 8, plus the 8 are American-based fighters. You don't need to worry about travel, only cross nation. So I can't see them doing that. But yeah, I just think Corey Anderson, he's coming in with a lot of hype. People are wanting to see him fight. I think he'll be given or granted an immediate title shot. Nemkov is the man to be able to dethrone Bader like that. But I think Anderson I think he'll be a handful for anyone. So I'm going to go with Anderson on this one.
Perfect. And finally, we're going to move on to the heavyweights. I'm going to start with Bellator, and I've got my strangest pick of the whole bunch, and I've had a few, is Fedor Emelianenko. And my reasoning again is, if Bader is involved in a light heavyweight Grand Prix, I can see a situation where Bader has to give up the title at heavyweight because he already hasn't competed there in quite some time. And Scott Coker has suggested that he's going to give Fedor a good send-off. I can see it being a favourable matchup for Fedor for the heavyweight title before he retires.
Yeah, I think you're crazy. I think that sounds like a fucking conspiracy theory or something.
It's a good one, though.
I think it is. It's an interesting one, but I don't think so. I think they'll give him a good matchup, an exciting fight to finish his phenomenal career, but I don't think it'll be for a belt. I think Bader will be the heavyweight champ again. Bader looks better at heavyweight than he does at light heavyweight. And,
that's true.
You know, to be able to come through a Grand Prix and be the heavyweight champ, you're going to have your work cut out try and take that from Ryan Bader at heavyweight, where he doesn't have that big cut. But he's getting paid a lot of money. I think that he'll be a very hard man to move off that top number 1 spot.
And with regards to the UFC, my pick for heavyweight champion is going to be Stipe. I got in some trouble last year about not putting respect on Stipe's name, and he proved me wrong. So I'm gonna stick with Stipe this time. I think the rematch against Francis, I think he's just proved he has too much for him. And again, against Jones, I just don't like Jones at heavyweight.
Yeah, I'm picking Jones for the heavyweight championship. Do you know what? I feel bad for not picking Stipe.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm disrespecting him for all the hard work he's done. Now we just pick another guy.
Yeah.
But I think Jones will come in heavier. I think he's going to try to fill out that frame of his, and I think he'll look much better, rejuvenated, hungry. I think he's lost interest in light heavyweight. I think a new division will spark interest, and I think he beats Stipe. Now Ngannou was there. I think Ngannou's probably favourite to take the heavyweight crown, but I don't know. It's either going to be Stipe or Jones or me, and I'm going to pick Jones for the crack.
No problem. Now, with regards to the women's divisions, I think we're in agreement that the UFC women's divisions, you have Nunes, Federer and Bantam, you have Shevchenko Fly and Zhang at strawweight. I think we both said that we can see them maintaining their belts throughout the year.
Yeah, Shevchenko is, talking about a high-level striker, she's one of the very best mixed martial artists in the world. Amanda Nunes is probably pound for pound.
Yeah.
And Weili Zhang looks so good every time she's in there. So I can't see any changes in any of the female champs in the UFC. I think they all stay crowned. I think they all stay number 1.
Yeah, I agree. No, I would say with Zhang, she's in a massive division there. She's got a tough out against Rose Namajunas, possibly next. You also have a rematch with Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which should be another war. And you have a sleeper in that division in Yan Xuanan. It could be a China versus China title fight, but I like that division. But I do see Zhang coming out on top. I think she proved in that Joanna fight in the fight of the year that she has what it takes to stay a champion.
Yeah, I think she's just too technical. She's just so good. I think she knocks Rose out. I think she does better than she done the last time against Joanna. I think she comes out on top. She's phenomenal. And then the other two ladies we mentioned, Nunes, like I said, I think she's probably my number 1 pound fighter in the world. Shevchenko, she's probably one of the highest fight IQs in the whole sport of mixed martial arts.
Yeah, fully agree. And with regards to Bellator, at the moment they only have a featherweight champion and a flyweight champion. I think Cyborg, if she's still there at the end of 2021, will be an undisputed champion for me. And the one thing I would say with flyweight is I do see Ilima McFarlane coming back and taking back that belt against Velasquez, and maybe Danny Nealon being in the picture hopefully by the end of 2021.
Yeah, I think McFarlane and Velasquez are going to go back and forth. Maybe I can see that being a trilogy. I can see them fighting many times. I think that's just a very great, really good matchup. But I think Velasquez, she's really impressed me. Really impressed me. I think Danny Nealon, she's phenomenal. But I think she'll want to go down another weight class down to the atom weight. If they do make a division, which there's a lot of girls coming through, I think Danny's name will be right up there.
Yeah.
And Cyborg, I think I could see Cyborg retiring or shifting over to boxing.
Yeah.
If she does, I can see Julia Budd versus Sinead Kavanagh, and that would be a hell of a fight. I'd love to see that as a new champ emerge. But if not, if Cyborg sticks with MMA, I think she'll be the champ at the end of this year.
Yeah, I agree. Now, before we sign off, we are going to give our bet of the week, which will be a continuing segment on this show. My bet of the week is I'm going to pick 3 champions at the end of 2021. I am going to pick Weili Zhang. I am going to pick Conor McGregor. And I am going to pick Khamzat Chimaev at welterweight.
Wow.
And
you work out the odds on that, no?
Yeah, so Khamzat is 13-2. We have McGregor at 6-4, and we have Weili Zhang at evens. We'll put the odds up on the screen as they're going by anyway. What is your bet of the week?
Okay, my bet is a double, and I'm going to say Conor McGregor to be champ in 2021, and I'm going to say TJ Dillashaw to come back and be the bantamweight champ. Even though I think Peter Yan is phenomenal, I think he'll have his work cut out. But I'm going to put those guys as a double. And if you want to try be greedy about it, put a triple on John Jones there as well to be the heavyweight champ.
We'll make the treble. It'll be a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll put a cheeky tenner each on those, and we'll see. And what we're going to do throughout this program over the year is we're going to keep track of, if you're following my bets, if you're following Brian's bets, you'll be up or down, however much. Obviously, these bets aren't going to come in until the end of the year. It'll be more applicable to the bets on the fight cards, but we'll keep track of it throughout the year. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off, Brian?
No, I'm just excited to do this, to predict. You know, me and you always went back and forth on fights, and we pretty much always argue every time we come across each other. So it'll be an interesting year for sure. But we've got some great fights coming up, great matchups in both UFC and Bellator. So looking forward to breaking them down.
Yeah, and it was a pleasure to do this with you. Looking forward to the fights in 2021, and stay tuned. Subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and give us a follow. Thank you.